Tank Engine Thomas Again is the fourth book of the Railway series. Written by Wilbert Awdry and illustrated by Clarence Reginald Dalby, it was first published in 1949. 35 years later, all four of the book's short stories were adapted into 4 short episodes of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. How faithful were these adaptations? Let's see if we can spot the differences. The main subject of the book are the amusing exploits of life on Thomas's branch line. The first notable difference is perhaps this series' most notorious illustration error. In Dalby's illustration, he drew Henry with Gordon's square buffers, 3 cab windows on one side, and coloured his funnel yellow. Whenever fans wrote to the author questioning this, he explained that the former and soon-to-be-again green engine had damaged his buffers and was using a spare pair of Gordons. This was the reason why Awdry decided to repaint and redesign Henry. Another blunder in this illustration is that Henry's smile is at odds with his statement about feeling ill, and Thomas's insult.
"Oh, you don't know what I suffer."
"Oh, rubbish! You're too fat. You need exercise."
In the episode, Thomas leaves the station as soon as he has finished criticising Henry for being late. But in the book, there is a pause in action, allowing the passengers to board his coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, and giving Henry time to go away. The Railway series breaks the fourth wall by having the 2 previous books advertised at the station's kiosk. Although Elsbridge Station does have a kiosk in the TV series, we do not get a close enough look at what it is selling. Thomas accidentally leaves the guard behind because he starts so quickly. But in the book, the guard failed to get into Clarabelle in time because he tripped over a woman's umbrella. The coaches plead with Thomas to stop, but the engine is still too cross with Henry to listen.
"I've lost my nice guard. No. I've lost my nice guard."
They soon have to stop at a signal, and it is here that everyone realises the guard is missing. In the book's illustration, we had already seen the guard was running after the train, making it less of a surprise when he finally caught it up. The exhausted man sits down on the grass to get his breath back. But in the episode, he remains on his feet. When Thomas apologises, the guard assures him that he was not to blame. This line may have made sense in the book, but in the adaptation, it was Thomas's fault for being too impatient.
Annie and Clarabelle were so pleased to have their guard again that they sang,
"As fast as you like, as fast as you like."
Yes, as fast as you like, as fast as you like.
Seeing people fishing makes Thomas want to join in.
"I should like to go fishing."
but they all had the same answer.
"Engines don't go fishing."
"Silly stick in the mud,"
thought Thomas.
One day, the water column has an out-of-order sign on it. In the book, the tower had no notice placed on it, so Thomas's crew only found out it wasn't working when they tried turning the tap on. Thomas is very cross about this, but in the illustration, he doesn't look very bothered. The Holy Bucket reminds the fireman of a song, so he sings it.
"There's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza."
Mended, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, then mended, dear Henry, mended.
With what shall I mend it, dear Liza, dear Liza?
This amusing musical moment was not included into the episode. Also, in the adaptation, Thomas is facing us, rather than his bunker facing us as it was in the illustration. Thomas is going through a tunnel when he begins to feel ill. In the episode, when the boiler pain starts, he is in the open countryside. The tank engine is parked in a siding, and a large crowd of people are gathered between Thomas and the coaches. No passengers are mentioned in the narration or seen in the episode, so it is uncertain whether they have approached the hissing engine from the nearby station or if they have come from Annie and Clarabelle. In the book it is said and shown that the driver wrote the warning notices himself, but in the adaptation this was changed to he found them. Also, the boards are placed at a slight distance from Thomas, not right up against him. In the illustration, the inspector who comes to examine the engine is wearing a light brown outfit, rather than the usual blue overalls. It is discovered that Thomas has fish in his tank.
Goodness gracious me.
In the episode, the men used a small ladder to help them climb up onto Thomas. They did not use one in the book. Once they catch the fish, they cook and eat them. It is mentioned in the book that the potatoes to make the chips were provided by the station master. The inspector is not seen at the meal, presumably leaving the area after sourcing the cause of Thomas's blocked water pipe. In the episode, it is hard to tell if he took part in the fish supper too, as in his close-ups the inspector had a dark brown beard, but in wider shots his hair colour is much lighter.
Fish don't suit you, Thomas, do they? So you mustn't do it again. No, sir, I won't. Engines don't go fishing. It's too uncomfortable.
When Thomas stops to chat to Terence the tractor, he is pushing, or possibly pulling, Annie and Clarabelle, with the coaches placed in front of him. In the episode, he is pulling the coaches behind him.
Oh, what ugly wheels you've got. They're not ugly. They're caterpillar tracks.
A piece of narration not included into the episode is that Thomas often saw Terence after their brief encounter, and although Thomas always whistled hello, Terence never responded. Winter arrives, and so does some snow, forcing Thomas to be attached to a snowplow. The tank engine is given the plough at Farquhar Station, but in the book he is in his small shed. Speaking of Thomas's sleeping quarters, in the TV series he is still staying at Tidmouth Sheds with the other engines. The Farquhar Sheds were not seen until Series 2, where they contained room for Percy and Toby too. Thomas deliberately damages his snowplow, and thus it has to be removed.
You're a very naughty engine,
he said to Thomas.
The pile of snow Thomas runs into is a lot smaller than it is in the episode, as it only covers the engine's wheels. The mini mountain in the adaptation makes for a much more dramatic looking scene. A bus picks up the passengers and Terence rescues the train.
I hope you'll be sensible now, Thomas,
said his driver.
I'll try to be,
said Thomas, and he puffed humbly away.
After a disagreement concerning which one of them is the fastest, Bertie the bus challenges Thomas to a race.
Oh yes, I remember now. You were stuck in the snow, didn't you? I took your passengers and Terence pulled you out.
It is said that Thomas is waiting at a junction when he meets Bertie. In the book's illustration, he is standing at a station, but in the adaptation, he is parked right next to the bus depot. At first, Thomas is confident he'll win, but soon Bertie is in the lead.
Goodbye, Thomas. You must be very tired. Sorry I can't stop. We buses have to work, you know. Ta-da.
After stopping at a station, Thomas has to wait for a goods train pulled by James to pass before he can move off. Neither James nor his train was seen or mentioned in the episode. Bertie is cross because he has to wait for a green light to go. As the bus was only given one face mask in this season, he naturally doesn't look too annoyed about the delay. Thomas wins and Bertie is not at all bothered by losing, as he is just happy to have taken part.
Well done, Thomas. That was fun. But to beat you over that hill, I should have to grow wings and be an aeroplane.
In the final illustration of the book, we see that the road and the railway line are separated by a small wire fence. In the TV series, there is no fence alongside Farquhar Station.
So although between you and me, they would like to have another race, I don't think they ever will. Do you?